Ladies and gentlemen, good evening from Menoskyne. This is the Italian pod, and it has other countries too. We usually have a mix of Italy, Canada, Mexico, and England, but tonight Canada isn't going to be with us because our buddy EJ threw out his back. We don't know yet if it's like a disc or just a nerve, so get well soon, EJ. And now let me introduce my remaining surviving hosts. We have Eagle from Mexico. How are you doing, Eagle?
A little bit of a cold, but I can power through. Hey, everybody.
Yeah. So, okay, a cold. What did you do to catch a cold?
I'm thinking it was partially part of the change in weather and the all that time in the airplane coming back from Italy.
Yeah, that may be it. Okay, and speaking of other countries and cold and humidity, we have from England, Will. As always, Will, how are you doing tonight?
I'm reasonably well, I think. Just trying a good position for the microphone because the pop filter is sort of in the peripheral vision. It's like it keeps drawing my attention. So I'm just trying to find the right position for that so it doesn't confuse me. And
yeah,
it's still effective and you can all hear me. But
now we can hear you, just a little bit disturbation. No, that's not even a word. Okay, well, it seems like we have a bit of everything. We have some guys with a cold, some guys throughout his back, and I'm sure, even me personally, I would like to do, really, right now, I would like to do anything but what we're about to do. I would like to talk about the new manga I just discovered, about the guy with a little sister who is a vampire. I like to talk about One Punch Man. I like to talk about video games, Star Wars, really anything but no. Tonight we're talking about terrorism. Do you like that prospect?
Well, nobody likes talking about terrorism or terrorists, but it's getting to a point where it's something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah. Sadly. Especially how it seems like the major of the population reacts to these facts nowadays. It seems, I mean, I can understand that it's like a heavy argument, but I think that would be one more reason why you should approach this with a brain. Not the heart, not the gut, but the brain. Logical thought. But that doesn't seem to always happen, does it?
It rarely does. It rarely does. Well, the thing is, most terrorism is because of some kind of ideology, and it seems that the greatest cause of terrorism or insurgency or whatever is some kind of religious conflict, and that is serious business. So there's not many jokes to be had at that one without fear of people kicking off and such. Or some would argue. But some people feel that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Back in the late 18th century, the American rebels were being considered terrorists. They would disagree. They would consider themselves freedom fighters, just as the Mujahideen would have in the 1980s in Afghanistan. The Irish Republican Army considered themselves freedom fighters. If it wasn't, as would the Unionist faction, which is possibly why there was such big trouble. It wasn't just a case of Britain being an arse and saying, "No, Ireland, you're part of us, no good." If given Ireland up to it be independent or part of the Republic or what have you was an option, we would have done it. I mean, we did give up our empire. We are going to give up the however many thousand square miles that is Northern Ireland. It's just that some people there are willing to take up arms to remain part of the Union. So, it's not exactly an easy thing to deal with. So I may have drifted off the topic there.
Just a bit, but it's okay to know where you're coming from. Yeah. But I'd wager, though, I like to add something on that. It's true, it seems like this the most common version of terrorism we have nowadays, it's based around, these religious ideals. But I'd like to say, because I'm a cynical bastard, I say that's what most of the mooks who go and explode themselves in public places or go kill and decapitate other peoples in the sand. That's what they believe, that's what they're there for. But I wager that the guys that are leading them and like making them these crazy hate, killing, murdering, raping machines actually have something more material in mind than religion. Because it's no wonder that the regions that they're trying to acquire for themselves are Iraq and Syria, which are two very important strategic places. The first, Iraq, because, for the same reason the US under Bush went there, for oil, of course. Syria, because I saw a map, a video, something like that. I saw that basically right now, the oil that we have has to go basically to a tube that has to go all the way around Saudi Arabia and go to the Suez Canal. But with a new, but if someone were to be able to, control or like have a good standing with Syria, there would be a much shorter way to oil to go from there to into the Mediterranean and from there to the rest of Europe and so on. So I'd wager that while the people that are actually doing the nasty work that gets plastered all over the newspapers and TVs do believe it's about religion, I wager that al-Baghdadi and all these other cronies do this for the day-old thing of money, territory, oil, everything,
Yeah, there is some of that. The thing is, that area's always been in conflict for the longest time, farther back than us three can fathom. It's always been a contested land, both for religious purposes and more modernly for, as I said, petroleum and petroleum products. Let's say also, remember, it was a contested land during the Cold War when the United States and Russia were at it just to see who could pressure the other one to press the button and release all hell on earth. And during those times, the United States supported the local people to fight against the Russians. Cold War ends, and guess where a lot of well-trained people are, and then suddenly you find a new idea to fight for.
Yeah. Which leads into what I see, what I read, what I studied about ISIS as a rising. Because as you said, those people, once they finished that fight, they moved somewhere else, or they made their own brand or whatever. And that's the case with ISIS. As we know, most local terror groups or whatever in the areas of Afghanistan, Iraq, came out of what was left of the people fighting during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Now, what is now ISIS, which is a completely different organization, was once like a subset of Afghanistan, most particularly during the Second Gulf War in Iraq. They were like the local version in Iraq and Syria of Afghanistan, and the problem is they were Al Qaeda. Sorry, they were the local Iraqi version of a subset of Al Qaeda. And thing is, they were so extreme that even Al Qaeda didn't like them much. Now, after a bit, I suggest anyone listening in to go read the articles of Zach Bouchon. I don't know if I read that right, but he's been following this for the longest time, so he knows what he's talking about. I even put a link in the description of this podcast afterwards. And basically, they're now their own organization, and they are basically another thing going on, because Al Qaeda has always prided himself of being this delocalized thing. You cut off a head, other to rise, and stuff like that.
Hey, I've heard that before.
Sorry?
Not to
Yeah.
not to take away from.
Go
from the
ahead, go
topic.
ahead. If I'm saying
Where did
something,
when I hear that phrase, you cut off one head and two more come back out.
yeah,
Hydra.
Yeah.
Hydra, yeah, Hydra.
Well, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Al Qaeda apparently translates as the cell. So like they're all like cellular, contained groups. So one cell. So you take down one cell. Say you arrest all the members of one. The other cells are relatively unaffected. That's how it's quite a decentralized organization. Hence why its name is supposed to translate as the cell. So yeah, they're quite. This is Al Qaeda in Iraq, and then it's affiliate groups like Al Shabaab and Boko Haram, which
in Nigeria,
yeah,
those poor girls.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, as I was saying, ISIS instead has done something completely different. They don't want to do like simple terrorism anymore. They want to become this big caliphate, and so they're actually wanting to conquer ground whenever they can. And what do you think? Let's talk about terror strategies really. According to you, which one is doing the better job? Like, do you think Al-Qaeda tactics of being the localized cells is better than basically going full-on warlord, conquering warlord, or the opposite?
The thing is, it's a situation there where what is the goal? The goal is is it destabilizing the region? Then the Al Qaeda cell-based situation is a good option because you're just destabilizing. Now, if you're trying to go all Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great and trying to conquer land and make something greater, then the ISIS Islamic State or Islamic Caliphate they're trying to set up is the way to go. Now, for starters, I'm Mexican American. I'm not more Muslim. I'm talking strategically on this. What are you trying to do? What's your plan? What's your goal? That's what I'm trying to say in that case.
Yes. If your goal is to bring attention to something, then a decentralized command structure is the best option. But if your goal is to create a caliphate or or whatever it is, to create your region of rule, a country, for lack of a better term, then a well-organized thing like the so-called Islamic State or ISIS or whatever name you want to call them, because they deserve to be mocked. Because mockery is the only way you'll defeat these people. But they're these things aren't. You start to say it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to quote start a conversation, then or raise awareness of your struggle, then you'll want a decentralized thing. However, the disadvantage of being decentralized is if people go rogue or they decide that they don't believe that there's no one holding the reins, you get a situation similar to like the Japanese soldiers in those Pacific Islands who don't believe that their country has surrendered. So they'll fight to the bitter end. Downside, I suppose, but if you're quite happy to blow yourselves up, then what do you care?
What the hell was that?
Oh, it's me knocking a speaker off the desk.
Okay.
There's something I kind of want to bring into this.
Yeah, go ahead.
As I said, it's decentralized, and from the little and incomplete investigation I tried to prep for today, it's ISIS as a group, and you already commented it was originally part of the greater Al Qaeda network.
Yeah.
when stuff happened in the Middle East and with the Desert Storm and all the pushes from the American uh, military assisted somewhat liberation from Saddam Hussein and the current
Hmm.
government there.
Yeah.
Al Qaeda, well, it somewhat went underground. It tried to disappear, but not completely, just hide for a while. Now, as we're aware of it, right now, Al Qaeda has been splintered off into what happened and what they're trying to still control in Iraq, and
Hmm.
and ISIS that has taken a stronghold both in Syria and also trying to push a little bit of the fighting in between the Sunnis and the Shia in both
Yeah.
regions.
Yeah, because it all always ties down to that, doesn't it? The Shia and the Sunni. Because I think this is a very important point to clarify for most people that are hearing this. Because most people, when they tend to talk about Islam, the Muslims people, they just take everything. Like they take all of it as one single big group. But they don't realize, most people, I guess they don't, when they talk. I bet they hear Sunni and Shia mentioned every now and then. But what they don't know is that basically two different tribes that the Muslims are made of. Right?
Yeah, yes. I actually, well,
Go ahead.
20 years ago, I did a module, or a part of my religious education GCSE was actually on Islam. And when I did that, it was the Shiites who were considered the fundamentalists, the orthodox, for lack of a better term, as opposed to the reform, which was the Sunni. They were considered the hardliners because those were the people who took over in Iran, and they were quite severe. But that's not always the case, as the fact that the Islamic State people are that they're Sunni,
They're
and so
science.
it's
So
like,
it's like
yeah,
now the situation is inverted. Right?
yes, yes, another way to look at it is the schism in Islam is a bit like Catholics and Protestants.
Okay.
In Northern Ireland, we're both capable of doing unspeakable horrors, so as bad as each other when they're being bad, but as good as each other when they're doing good.
Yeah. So, but
I don't know.
you're just a Brit. What do you know? Yeah,
I'm
but
just a shitlord. What do I know?
yeah, but the thing is that it's very. I think this is a very important point because most of the things we see on TV, it seems like every basically Al Qaeda, now ISIS, and everything else, they just focus like it's a war against the West, it's a war against Christianity, it's a war against this, it's a war against that. But the problem is, if it was only about wanting to kill Christians and Westerners, why are there so many people from the Middle East that are running away from there? That's the thing. Most people most people realize that, in particular right now, because as you said, ISIS and their backers in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar. Because maybe you don't know, everyone who's going to vacation in Dubai, also the Arab Emirates, everyone is doing business with Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Qatar. Most of their backers, most of them are Sunni, and their first victims in this war are not Westerners, because most Westerners are somewhere else. Their first victims are Shia, right?
Yeah, in a sense, it's become a bit of and I'm going to say it in the wrongest way possible. It's something of a civil war in between the Muslim states or the Muslim faith. Uh, there are many countries out there that are Muslim, but they don't manage the same way or the same hardline tendencies as with, in this case, the Muslims in the Shia and Sunni in Iraq and Syria. I think we spoke about this offline a few days ago. That there's many other countries that do manage a very very well, comparatively more open-ended, more open-minded, more welcoming of the West. Like I want to say, was it Malaysia?
Yeah, Indonesia, I think too.
Indonesia, Malaysia.
Yeah.
There's a strong contingent of Muslims in India also.
Yeah.
If anything, in this case, and something I've been personally frustrated with right now with the United States starting with they're setting up for their voting next year. They still haven't done their primaries to see who's going to be the Democrat and who's going to be the Republican
Republicans, yeah.
And they're trying to paint this all in very broad strokes, a very not well informed, not well detailed thing, and just there's fear mongering. They're saying all the Muslims. It's not all the Muslims.
Yeah, and they say if you say not all the Muslims, it almost become a joke, like a catchphrase. Not all the Muslim, you're a pacifist, you're a moron, etc., etc. Because I actually talk with people online, people that actually use their brains in other matters, that went like all Muslims and that, and they had to go back. Like I actually had this talk. I need to say this because this is what happens because of people mongering fear and hate. I talked with this guy that basically proposed we send even second and third generation migrants, like the sons or grandsons, granddaughters of people that migrated here years ago into those states. Why? Because according to him now, every brown people is a possible terrorist. They can have been born here, they can have been brought on Western values or their own whatever, but they're all potential terrorists, according to him. That was really the craziest thing I heard. But the point is, what most of these people don't realize, that doing this, just basically, we heard. Well, I mean, I'm gonna go and say something here. We saw what happened in Paris and what wanted to happen in Belgium, in Lebanon. They didn't talk about this that much, but they killed some people, other Muslims in Lebanon, like 250 people dead. And the problem is, they are not the targets. Let's not kid ourselves. This is not about killing people. This is about creating fear and anger. Because right now, thankfully we're gonna go over this later, but basically the Islamic State did a pretty big mistake, and it's costing them money and it's most importantly recruits. So the reason why they're doing these terror attacks is not to kill people. It's not to kill people. It's to create fear and anger, and to let the usual politicos in the West foment fear and anger because of elections. So the process is this: they create fear and anger because the only way they can get people to come and serve under them, to mostly be from the West, people with passports that they can go around and do stuff, is to convince them that the West hate and fears Muslims. So they make a terror attack. The usual politico that has to gain some votes by speaking to people's guts gets them to really hate and fear Muslims. So those Muslims, even those, particularly those in the West, because they're the ones on the direct effect of these people that are now hating and fearing Muslims, they are convinced of what he says and they help him. So not only is that the real reason why these terror attacks are happening right now, because there is no sense in making an enemy of the world. So the problem is their targets are these politicians, these people that convince others that all Muslims are bad, to make them fear and anger them. So in a way, every single new victim that could come because of terror attacks, or even down in Iraq and Syria, because these people from the West go there to learn and fight and kill, a bit of blood is also on these people's hands. And voices, I guess. Are you loading a gun right now?
No. Just checking some documentation I just got in earlier yesterday.
About?
As you were saying, the thing is it's being strongly divisive of people, and mostly the youth, because there's people that are being alienated. There's people that are being pushed out if they're sons of migrants, and being here in the in northwest Mexico, southwest United States area, I get to see a lot of that. A little bit more progressive than what I've heard around the rest of the world or the rest of the states of the United States. Is that in some cases you push away people that are migrants because they're coming for your job, they're coming for they're not integrating into your country. And the problem there is by pushing them away, you're validating whoever is stoking that fire, saying, "Oh, the West is being negative. The West hates us as Muslims," or the West. Basically, they're feeding into that same hate mongering. And there's a good amount of citizens in the United States that are of the Muslim faith, but have integrated into the United States culture. There's a great amount of second generation, third generation Muslims that are part of the U.S. military. And I'll take a minute to bring to light that during the course of the week, presidential candidate Donald Trump he said a comment about registering Muslims. And a group of Muslims have gone online on Twitter and other social media and saying, "Oh, sure, I'll register. Guess what? I'm already registered." And they pull out their identifications as
an army,
as military, as saying, "Hey, I'm already registered. What about you? Have you done your share of keeping peace, or are you just feeding the machine?"
Yeah. He's just farting out of his mouth as usual. That guy hasn't been done anything but, really, no matter what he's talking about.
So I'd like to point out, Trump is a PG term for flatulence in the UK. So let that as Trump So just let that sink in. Donald Trump. Yeah. Don't ever.
Yeah, it's okay. We have something like Donald Trump in Italy as well. This guy is called Matteo Salvini. He's basically this far right wing idiot. But he's not like an entrepreneur. Otherwise, he probably would have gone bankrupt more times than Donald Trump ever did. And let's remind people: Donald Trump, the guy that says he wants to fix the U.S.'s economy, went bankrupt 4 times. Let's remember that. Anyway, this guy is he's a moron. Let's just say he's a moron. This is the guy that said, basically, is the guy that comes in every country every once in a while that starts appealing to people's discontent and anger and fear and aims it at some people. In this case, he aims it at migrants, among others. Because, that's how he gets votes from people. This guy has never... And let's give credit... I mean, Donald Trump may be a shit entrepreneur and a shit politician, but at least he worked. This guy, Salvini in Italy, has never worked a day in his life. I'm not even joking. Has never worked a day in his life.
Wait, has Trump actually worked? I thought he was coming from old money. I thought his father's the one that worked.
But I mean, worked even, managing a company as shit as he did. He still kind of work. This guy has always been a politician. He has never done anything but. So it's even worse.
It's not real work managing a company like Trump did. I mean, had Trump started off with a seed capital and he's worked his way up from I wouldn't say nothing because nobody works their way up from that.
Okay, well, let's say that at least Trump tried to give the impression of doing shit. This guy, not even that.
Oh, Yeah, I mean,
Okay, that's more correct, I guess.
yeah, Trump has some industry experience, not necessarily skilled in whatever industry he was in, but yeah, he's made a lot of money from being a property developer. So he's no, at least on the plus side, Trump's campaign is sort of self-funded, so he's not beholden into special interests
Yeah.
like some of the other donors are. So the other candidates are with their big donors.
Well,
At
no
least,
special interests that we know of. But returning to the topic at hand, yeah, Trump, Salvini, even Marine Le Pen. The thing is, it seems like no matter where we go, there is always someone like now Muslim, like they almost see these guys see Muslim terrorism as a good thing. Because that way they can make people angry at these targets, at people, at the different ones, and they can make you forget about other shit they did or said. For example, in my country, there is a few people, a lot that I speak to, that they suddenly like Putin, Russia, because he's bombing Syria and ISIS. And I wanted to remind these people. First, did we already forget what happened in Crimea and what is still happening in Ukraine? Did we? First. Second, one of the two big factors that led to the rise of ISIS was Assad in Syria. The guy actually fomented the sectarian hate between Sunni and Shia by even releasing criminals because he wanted his opponents to become extremist terrorists so he could play that card and not let the West come and, fight him, depose him or whatever. So that guy is one of the reasons ISIS even exists, and guess who's supporting him right now? Russia. And third, seriously, have you ever read about what Vladimir Putin has done in his life? Like, have you heard of what is done in Chechnya? What that guy did puts the most Muslim terrorists to shame. Go and read about a certain theater. Then you'll tell me. So, you tell me, why are people so easily bamboozled when he talks about terrorism? Why do you think people they hear, I hate Muslim terrorists, and they suddenly forget about everything else that person may have done before? What's up with that?
Putin has the image of a strong leader. He is seen as a strong leader and a strong personality, strong character.
Yep. Problem is,
the job done.
Yeah, Stalin did as well. We all know how that went.
Yeah. But that's why Putin scores highly. Now the Russians, the Russian people, I feel had a bit of the ones who were after the fall of the Soviet Union sort of lost what they were, as it were. Yeah, so whenever an empire breaks up, there's often how do I put this? An identity crisis. We used to be this big, powerful entity. We used to be able to, people were in fear and awe of our word. Now we're struggling to keep the lights on. There was a lot of that, and people crave strong leadership. And the people who are savvy enough, like Putin, often use I'm not say climate of fear, but know how to play on the voters' fears.
You had to speak up, Will. I can't really hear you that well.
Oh well, someone like Putin needs. He plays on the fears of his voters, of his populace, which is what gives him his additional power. Because with state-controlled media and not necessarily state-controlled media, but various slants where the media is controlled by friends of politicians. For example, Fox News does a wondrous job at creating a climate of fear, and so then people they crave something. Something's got to be done. Something's got to be done, They're not sure what needs to be done. So any old chuckle fuck in a parliament goes, right, here's what we'll do, bosh. And they'll go, yeah, they're doing something, and then they don't realise what they're doing, and next thing you know, you've got a situation where the NSA or intelligence agencies can control, can read everybody's email and see everybody's dick pics.
Yeah, like what?
No.
Yeah, I remember that. That was George Oliver's interview with with Snowden, right?
Yep. He did a thing where it's like, can I see? It's like, in order to break it down for the American people, because a lot of the stuff, the programs are quite technical, and if you don't know what the things are, then you wouldn't know. But lots of things are technical, and you wouldn't know if you weren't involved on them. So the best way to break it down is the analogy of intimate photos.
Yeah.
And don't think it's just modern technology that's like that. It's sort of like computers and such. Cars are like that a lot. So,
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not only that. That brings up an interesting point because, as I said, this is no old news. Like leaders, building up on the fear of peoples, on the fears, their discontent and stuff like that. But the thing is, this is nothing new. This has happened I don't know how many fucking times over the course of history, and yet people still fall for that. How is that possible?
People fall for it because we fall into cycles of content and discontent. I'm going to take an example with my country, Mexico. For the longest time, we've had pretty much a two-party government system, and for the better part of 100 years, one party was the government of power. And then 18 years ago, the other party finally got into power. They did some changes. Most of it was positive. Some of it got some negative commentary from I want to say the older members of society. They're like, oh, it used to be better with the other government. We got another repeat of the of the competing branch of government, and then we're back to the government of power of 100 years ago, and we're seeing it happen worse now. So it's okay. You go back to old reliable, and you notice, you know what? We weren't that bad off with the competition. You go to the competition, and you feel, oh, we used to be better. What happened now? Why do I have to register for more stuff? Why do I have to pay more taxes? Because you weren't before at all. Now, equating this back to what we're talking about is society in general. We're used to having governors, people in power, pretty much tell us that we're happy. Show us the situation of the country, of the state, of the world as it is, and saying, we're doing okay. Gas is going up, prices are going down, food's being cheaper or not enough food. We get educated in a certain way that we're used to. Yeah. We're content with what we're seeing. And then we see something different. We see something negative.
So it's because of, you say it's because of ignorance, basically.
It's both voluntary ignorance and I want to say controlled ignorance.
Okay, no, that's what basically. So still ignorance, and the point is, at least in my eyes, in my opinion, in 2015, we're not talking about third world countries here. We're talking about civilized countries, more or less, depending on where. But Mexico is
for a given value of civilized.
Yeah, I don't know how to. Well, okay, we're talking about
still considered in development.
Yeah, we're talking about anyway modern countries with a very large, many ways of accessing informations. Many ways. So, in that light, I can't really forgive people for being ignorant. So it's not really about being ignorant, but I have to think that people like being lied to. They like being told what to do. Is that it? Is that they like being told what to think so they don't have to do it themselves?
I kind of want to say
So-
yes.
Yes. Well, we've seen this. Those who don't study their history are doomed to repeat its mistakes. We have
Yeah.
seen elements of what we're seeing now, looking back. Oh, these people, how do we know they're not terrorists? Well, a lot of people were reluctant to take in Jewish refugees. How do we know they're not communists? Register all the Muslims. That's what the Nazis did with the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people not seeing the parallels, and they're not thinking, "Hang on, are we the bad guys here?" I mean, there's a sketch from David Mitchell and Robert Webb. I can't remember which show it is. There's one where they're playing two Nazi soldiers, and they're asking, "Are we the bad guys here?" I mean, look at our uniforms. They've got
There's
skulls
skulls
on.
on them. I remember that.
So,
Yeah?
so people, you can lie to your people. If you say if the lie's big enough and you're brazen enough with it, you can get away with almost anything. And these people are the lies that are being told by the politicians are pretty brazen. It's like, it's these people who are going, the immigrants are coming to steal your job, or they're coming to take your benefits. I mean, which is it? Are they going to steal all my unemployment and housing benefit, or are they coming to steal my job? So, what's it going to be? Schrodinger's immigrant. The quantum waveform is collapsing. Is he going to steal my job or my money?
Yeah, as you say, they're kind of brazen lies, like a toddler. Okay, an elementary schooler, knowing what those two things mean, would go, that doesn't really make sense, so why do voting adults fall for that? Why do they put their brains in standby?
They're too busy worrying about making sure they're able to pay the rent. They're able to pay their normal bills, and a lot of the time they're too worried about the status quo to worry about other stuff. And when they're being fed that information, you wonder, okay, so how much is it really true? How much are they telling us that there actually is a war? Like I want to say, like the United States, they're right now so much worried. They were previously worried about the war on Christmas, and now this happens, and now it's back to being a war on Muslims. What the hell? It's like they're waiting for the next big pile of bullshit to come along and worry about and forget everything else.
Yeah, and that I just can't understand why. Because you say they're worried about the bills and stuff, but the problem is those stuff affects if they will be able to pay the bills. Politics affect every aspect of your life. Everything in your life is affected by the politics of the country you live in. So choosing to ignore that because you say you're too worried about your life of which you'll be able to make the bill to pay the bills doesn't really make any sense. Doesn't really make any sense. It's like there is what is everyone on the planet? Is most of the people on the planet conditioned to not think about things too much, to just gloss over this kind of stuff? This turning into conspiracy theory stuff. But seriously, if you think about it logically, it doesn't really make any sense for people not to worry, not to think about what is being said to them by politicians.
Well, as George Carlin said, they call it the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
I miss old Uncle George.
I know. I miss him. People nowadays are working longer hours, spending they're not spending as much time with their families as they were. A lot of people are living alone. A lot of people generally they feel they don't have the time to engage with such things. We've become such a fast-paced society. I mean, really, one of the most popular social networks is Twitter, where you have 140 characters to get a point across. That's bloody hell. You could probably, with enough skills and crudeness, you could probably belch most tweets out there. You spit whilst belching, and it's I'm sure somebody could. So with everything being fast paced, you want it now, and I believe it has had a slightly detrimental effect on the attention spans of a few people. I would feel that my attention span isn't what it used to be 20 years ago. But 20 years ago it was a struggle to actually look at anything resembling porn on the internet, or get it in a fast thing. Nowadays I can download 60 FPS hardcore built with insert your fetish here.
4K porn.
4K 60 frames per second. Yes, yeah. But with a rolling news cycle, I feel like I should be supposed to be basically saying, "Get off my lawn." So I can certainly see why people do feel that these things are happening, and I just don't have time to get engaged and go into the day. Like, just give me the cliff notes, the Pressy, the 4-coma version of why I should care, because I've got other things to do. You know?
Yeah, but is that okay? So we should carry 140 characters. Okay, you have to care because this is going to fuck your life. That's the abridged version. That's the abridged version for most things that happen in politics, basically.
Yeah, but now here's the thing: is we hear about politics and how many shenanigans and hornswoggle and whatever word you want to use for bullshit they do in the back alleys or in the back rooms for them to eventually not even vote on it anyway. And like Ross says, we come home tired from work, from our 8 to 12 hour work days, 4 to 5 days, up to 6 days a week. And we turn on the TV, and sometimes we just want to turn off our brain and just relax, because 8 hours from now, we're going to go back and put their nose to the grinding stone. So what's happening there? Who's at the wheel? Who's actually educating, or who's informing us? Who's keeping us up to date on what's happening? And then comes the other side of the coin where, okay, television's not for free. They can't really manage to hold everything on screen for free. So how much of the information is controlled? And yeah, sorry if it's sounding like you said a
conspiracy theory.
But that's a problem. Some conspiracy theories sound more logical than real life.
Yeah. So you say that basically most of them. So basically, you're saying that since most people just don't have the time to inform themselves, the disposition, right. Yeah, those who make the news should do their job properly.
Should, but you know how they are.
Journalismatics, am I right?
Who's got time for that? Objectivity is a silly thing to strive for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that.
Fuck facts. Seriously, that's...
Feels before reels, damn it. Feels before reels.
Use at 11.
So... yeah, so it all comes down to that. People don't... If you control the media nowadays, most particularly in a day and age where people have so very little time to do to care about more than what's happening right around them, if you control the media, if you control the information, you control how the people react to anything you do. That's
Which
pretty
goes
much
back,
it.
which bringing it back to the whole situation with Al Qaeda and
Yeah.
terrorism. Is, like Ross said, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Hmm.
So, taking into that into account, um, as I was flying back from Italy during on Thursday, stopped off in Atlanta, and they had a CNN News up and running, and they were talking a little bit about was
Hmm.
this the situation in Paris and the quote unquote the leader of the event that happened there.
Yeah.
And they were talking about him and his family and saying that, yeah, he is a second generation Muslim son of immigrants, and he's never really lived long enough in Muslim countries to actually say, hey, I've been affected by this. It's more like, and I'm saying it in the wrongest way possible, and I apologize, but was
Hmm.
he brainwashed? And was he convinced that, well, as a Muslim in a different country, it's your place to bring upon change, but not in the usual way we think about bringing about change.
Yeah, I mean, most people in Western countries bring change in civilized ways, but well, I guess yeah, it is kind of crazy. If you think about it, right now? I mean, let's be honest. The countries that have Sharia laws are some of the worst countries you can possibly live in.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it seems like the West is getting used to those country statics because, especially in the U.S., we have people trying to enforce change. By shouting at people in libraries, interrupting, not wanting to hear people. Okay, I'm going on another tangent here. But the point is, as you said, is like people are suddenly transforming. Like in the face of everything bad that's happening in the world. Everything bad, they prefer to like just stick their heads, under the sand.
Yes. It's, what's
Because they're afraid of change, positive or negative. Usually they blame negative, but they think they don't believe in progressive change, or they don't understand progressive change.
in some cases, people are afraid afraid of saying the wrong thing now and being, I say, bullied when they use an outdated phrase or say something that might be insensitive to somebody who's super hypersensitive. They parodied it in a recent episode of South Park after Randy got in with the PC Brigade.
Mm-hmm.
His wife says, "You just jump on over his throat, we're just waiting for them to make a mistake so you can feel better." People are when you've created again a climate of fear of speaking up, for people, accidentally saying the wrong thing, misspeaking. What are you supposed to do? I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch earlier this year, he used the phrase "coloured actor," or I believe, or instead of person of colour,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, really, that's what's got you upset, not the fact that your people of colour are throwing gays off tall buildings in the Middle East. That's not a problem. Or what about Africa? What's the people in Boko Haram running around abducting children? That's a problem. That's not a problem. Is that because it's miles away? I mean, what's up with these people? And are they only offended for things that they can feel they had something to say about? Someone said a joke about someone told a bad joke and used the word tranny. Does no, quick, ban them from the television or whatever. Oh no, yeah, yeah, let's do that. Let's also not ignore the fact that some of the social justice clowns keep trying to get a thing with paedophilia. We're trying to get it made accepted.
Yeah,
let's ignore that.
We're getting a bit off topic here, though. Sorry.
Massively.
Yeah, massively. We're just yeah. So basically, it seems like there is two sides of the coin. There are when it comes to the reaction to Muslims and to terrorism, there is the extreme of people not wanting to even say anything, even about distinguishing. Like, they don't want to hear anything about Muslims at all. Even if it's some Muslims they are doing bad things, they take it as you are saying that all Muslims are terrorists. Like, you can't say anything bad about any kind of Muslim. I heard people, excuse, the suicide bomber in Paris because she was a woman. And on the other extreme, we have people collating every single people that is a Muslim together with those motherfuckers of ISIS. These are the two extremes we come to in front of when it comes to reacting to ISIS. And I think a lot of that it's mostly because it's election time, because there are a lot of people polarizing those two extremes to their own gains. Pretty much. And we had to close it down at an hour today, but I want to say a few words to those peoples, directly, we're face to face. So, to you people using the terrorism, every single horrible thing that is happening around today, around the world, be it in France, be it in Iraq, be it in Syria, be it in Kurdistan. You remember when I said that the ISIS did a very big mistake? The mistake they did was pissing off the Kurds, because the Kurds are kicking their asses in Iraq. So ISIS is now basically running on fumes. Sooner or later, they'll go away. Sooner, if the West could actually help these people, even in Syria maybe, with the ground forces, but it's not going to happen because politics. And politics still is what is making you fearmonger and angermonger your electoral bases, with people getting assaulted in the streets, buildings being thrown to the fire, set on fire. So, to you people I say, fuck you. Because it's this climate that lets people on the other side of the world get young people, second, third generation immigrants in the West filled with hate and this extremist crap. It's their fault, but it's also yours, because you create fertile ground for these people to come up. So every single victim of terrorism is also a bit on your hands. And to ISIS, I won't say, you're nothing new. That's the problem. ISIS is strong because he appears strong, because he appears this scary, raping, pillaging machine. And the thing is, you're nothing fucking new. Just because you shout about the Prophet and because you have automatic guns doesn't make you anything new or even remotely scary. Because this is all shit that has already happened thousands, hundreds of times in history. So you're nothing new. You're even kind of ridiculous. Have you ever seen one of the videos of these people? They look like Call of Duty rejects. Seriously, I could play a Call of Duty or watch an ISIS propaganda movie and they'll look the same. Hell, Call of Duty has better special effects. So you're nothing. You're nothing original. You're nothing scary compared to what has already been going on. And you'll be gone from the face of the earth soon enough. Sooner rather than later, but it's going to happen. And this is what I want to say to everyone. To defeat these people, like the war at home. Remember in Vietnam? They called the war at home. The thing is, the war at home here, you win with your fucking brain. I know you have long hours that we established. You have long weeks. You prefer not to think about all the shit that is going on in the world. But the problem is, you're not going to. Someone else is going to talk about it. And someone else is going to tell you what to think about it. And you can't let that happen. Especially because maybe you won't listen, but your children may listen. Your relatives may listen. Your partner may listen. So, to those people I say, you have to talk about this shit. You have to form your own opinion before someone else tells you what to think. Because that's how you win the war at home with these people. Using your fucking brain instead of your stomach. Well, that was a speech, I guess.
That was a good rant.
Yeah, guess that.
Yeah, one thing I want to add to that
Yeah.
also, all you people that love to tone police, give it a rest. Seriously.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So no one likes being shouted at, and no, I understand this, and nobody likes people in your face, but you've got to relax, you've got to chill out. Remember, people, be cool. That is the first rule of life these days. It's got to be cool.
Be
Never
cool
mind.
and collected.
Be cool, take a step back and go, right, yes, this is something I need to get angry about. Or it's like, wow, really? I mean, nobody likes being butt hurt. No one likes having the fifis hurt, but really? You've got the serious small things.
Your dog being crazy?
Cute
Well,
dog, by the way.
Well, that was thanks for that. Okay.
No problems.
Now we needed to end this on a lighter note because if we ended on my speech, I would guess most people would end up anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, this has been a shorter but fun evening. This Menoscan Italian pod. We talk about terrorism with Eagle Series.
Gracias, everybody. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, and Lord Drag William Smith from England.
Justice for
Again, this is Menoscan from Italy, and I'll see you on the next podcast.